By federal law, a product cannot legally be called butter unless it is made exclusively from milk or cream and contains at least 80% milk fat. Several products sitting in the butter aisle right now do not meet that legal definition at all. Here are the 5 you should stop buying immediately. That definition comes directly from the Code of Federal Regulations and from a federal law called the Butter Act, which exists specifically to protect that one word on the label. Despite that legal protection, the National Milk Producers Federation and the American Butter Institute have filed formal complaints with the FDA in recent years over products that use butter branding and red barn dairy imagery while containing little to no actual dairy fat. We pulled 5 of the most common offenders sitting in stores right now, including some at Costco, and then we are giving you 3 brands that meet the real standard every single time. Brand 5 to skip: Country Crock Plant Butter. Country Crock built its entire brand identity around dairy farm imagery. The packaging shows a red barn, rolling green fields, and the kind of pastoral scene that makes you picture a cow standing in a pasture somewhere in Wisconsin. Then you flip the package over and read the ingredient list, and there is no dairy in it at all. The plant butter line is made primarily from palm oil and canola oil, blended with water and emulsifiers. There is 0 milk, 0 cream, and 0 milk fat in the product. Despite that, some of these products have been marketed using the phrase dairy-free salted butter directly on the front label, a description the National Milk Producers Federation formally called a flagrant violation of federal standards of identity in a complaint submitted to the FDA in 2025. Here is why that distinction matters beyond just semantics. Palm oil is significantly higher in saturated fat than dairy butter fat on a comparable basis, and it lacks the naturally occurring fat-soluble vitamins and short-chain fatty acids that come from genuine pastured dairy. When you reach for this product because the barn on the label made you think you were getting a wholesome dairy product, you are paying butter prices for a vegetable oil blend that has nothing to do with a cow. Brand 4 to skip: I can't believe it's not butter original. This one has been sitting on grocery shelves for decades, and the name itself is the entire marketing strategy. It is daring you to taste it and not believe it is not butter. But read the actual ingredient list, and the name stops being clever and starts being accurate in a way that should concern you. The full ingredient list for the original tub reads water, soybean oil, palm kernel oil, palm oil, salt, soy lecithin, natural flavors, lactic acid, and added vitamins. Water is listed first, which under FDA labeling rules means it is the single largest ingredient by weight in the entire product. There is no milk, no cream, and no dairy fat anywhere on that list. It is worth knowing that this product does not even meet the federal standard for margarine, which requires a minimum of 80% fat. I can't believe it's not butter original comes in under that threshold, which is part of why the company markets it as a spread rather than a margarine or a butter. If you have been using this product because you assumed it was at least a real butter alternative made from dairy, the truth is that it is mostly water and seed oil with butter flavoring added on top. Brand 3 to skip: Land O'Lakes spreadable butter with canola oil. This one is trickier than the first 2 because Land O'Lakes is a legitimate dairy cooperative that also makes genuinely real butter, which we will get to later in this video. But their spreadable line sitting right next to the real sticks in the Costco dairy case is a different product entirely, and a lot of shoppers grab it without realizing the difference. The ingredient list for the spreadable tub reads pasteurized sweet cream, canola oil, and salt. So there is real butter in there, but it has been blended with canola oil specifically to keep it soft and spreadable straight out of the refrigerator. That blending process means the product no longer meets the 80% milk fat threshold required to legally be labeled as butter on its own. That is exactly why the company calls it butter with canola oil rather than simply butter. To be fair to Land O'Lakes here, their labeling is honest about what is in the tub, and that transparency matters. But the issue for your wallet is this: you are paying a premium, butter-level price for a product where a meaningful portion of every spoonful is canola oil, not the cream that gives real butter its nutritional and flavor profile. If you are buying it because you specifically want real butter, you are not getting the same thing as the stick sitting 2 feet away in the same dairy case. Brand 2 Challenge spreadable butter. Challenge has built a strong reputation among home bakers, and a lot of that reputation is earned. Their standard stick butter is a legitimate, well-regarded dairy product used in professional kitchens across the country. The spreadable tub version, however, follows the exact same playbook as the Land O'Lakes product we just covered. Challenge Spreadable Butter blends real cream butter with vegetable oil to achieve a soft, refrigerator-ready texture. Once that blending happens, the product falls below the federal milk fat threshold required for the butter label to apply on its own, which is why it is marketed under the spreadable category rather than as straight butter. The pattern across this entire spreadable category is worth understanding because it shows up under nearly every major butter brand at Costco. Manufacturers add vegetable oil to butter specifically because pure butter is too hard to spread straight from a cold refrigerator. That is a real and understandable convenience trade-off. The problem is when shoppers do not realize that convenience comes at the cost of buying a diluted product while paying a price that often matches or exceeds the real thing. Brand one to skip? Parquet spread. Parquet has been sitting in the same section of the grocery store as real butter for generations, and the bright yellow tub with bold lettering has become so familiar that most shoppers do not even register it as a separate product category anymore. It just feels like part of the butter aisle. It is not. Parquet is a margarine and vegetable oil spread built primarily from soybean oil and other vegetable oils with water, salt, and added coloring to mimic the appearance of real butter. There is no dairy cream in the base recipe of the standard Parquet spread. The yellow color you see is not from natural carotenoids in grass-fed cream the way it would be in genuine pasture butter. It comes from added coloring, specifically to visually match what consumers expect butter to look like. None of this means the product is unsafe to eat. Vegetable oil spreads are a normal part of the food supply, and plenty of people choose them intentionally for cost or dietary reasons. The issue is when you believe you are buying a dairy product because of where it sits on the shelf and how it is colored, when what you are actually getting is a vegetable oil spread with butter flavoring engineered to look the part. Brand worth buying? Kerrygold, pure Irish butter. Kerrygold has earned its reputation the hard way, through consistency rather than marketing. The ingredient list is simply pasteurized cream and salt, nothing else. That is the entire definition of real butter, executed exactly as written in the federal standard, except this version comes from Ireland rather than the United States. What separates Kerrygold from a lot of domestic butter is the source of the cream itself. Irish dairy farming relies heavily on grass-fed, pasture-raised cattle rather than grain-fed confinement systems. Research published on the nutritional differences between grass-fed and grain-fed dairy has consistently found that grass-fed butter carries higher levels of beta-carotene, which gives Kerrygold its noticeably deeper yellow color compared to most American butter, along with a different and generally more favorable fatty acid profile, including higher omega-3 content. Costco sells Kerrygold in large multi-pack formats specifically because demand for it has grown enormously over the past decade as more shoppers became aware of grass-fed labeling. If you want the genuine article with zero blending, zero vegetable oil, and a verifiable simple ingredient list, this is one of the most reliable options sitting in the Costco dairy case. Brand worth buying, Vital Farms butter. Vital Farms built its name on pasture-raised eggs before expanding into dairy, and they carried the same sourcing standards directly into their butter line. The ingredient list is cream and salt, full stop, meeting the real federal standard for butter with nothing added to extend or dilute it. The company is built around a model called rotational grazing, where cattle are regularly moved between pasture sections to allow grass to regenerate, which keeps the cows on a consistently fresh grass diet for most of the year, rather than relying on grain supplementation. That sourcing model is independently verified through third-party certification programs, not just a marketing claim printed on the package. Vital Farms has expanded its retail footprint significantly in recent years and is increasingly available at Costco locations alongside the more established brands. If you see it in your local warehouse, it represents the same quality tier as Kerrygold, Real Cream, Real Salt, and a verified pasture-based supply chain, just from a domestic source rather than an imported one. Brand worth buying, Land O'Lakes, sweet cream, butter sticks. This is the important distinction to walk away with from this entire video. The exact same company that makes the diluted spreadable tub we covered earlier also makes a completely legitimate federal standard compliant butter in their classic stick format, and it is sitting in the same Costco dairy case. Land O'Lakes, sweet cream, Butter sticks are made from pasteurized sweet cream and salt with no canola oil, no vegetable oil blending, and no water added. This version meets the full 80% milk fat requirement and qualifies as real butter under the exact same federal standard we opened this video with. The company has been producing it this way since their founding in 1921. And the stick format has remained essentially unchanged because there has never been a reason to dilute it. The lesson here is not that Land O'Lakes as a brand should be avoided. It is that within nearly every major butter brand, including the trusted ones, there are two distinct product lines sitting feet apart on the same shelf, one of which meets the real legal standard for butter and one of which does not. Reading the ingredient list for 10 seconds before you put it in your cart is the only way to know which one you are actually buying. Here is what to do next time you are standing in the Costco dairy case. Pick up the package and look for exactly two ingredients, cream and salt. If you see water listed anywhere near the top, or canola oil or palm oil, you are not holding real butter regardless of what the front label calls it or how convincingly the packaging is designed to look like a dairy farm. Kerrygold, Vital Farms, and the standard Land O'Lakes stick all pass that test every single time, with verified sourcing behind every one of them. The spreadable tubs and the vegetable oil spreads do not, and several of them have already drawn formal complaints to the FDA over how they are marketed. If this changed how you are going to shop the dairy aisle, drop a comment with the brand you have been buying without realizing what was actually in it. And subscribe because we are going through every major Costco grocery category with the same standard, checking the label against the legal definition so you stop paying real prices for fake products.